I'm going to give a call to Allen Wong.
Great transition there.
Well, he's a technology guy. Like, this is a guy that does what these programmers do. Basically, they take a bunch of numbers and make things out of it. They make worlds, they make games, they make movies. And in his case, he made millions and millions and millions of dollars for himself. And he was almost homeless. He's written a book, Life Hacked, How One Family from the Slums Made Millions Selling Apps. Let me give him a call here. But yeah, basically he was a homeless guy in a bad situation. His dad had just passed away, and his mom has schizophrenia, so he was having a real tough time in life. And out of that, he was able to bring himself out of that and bring his family out of the mess they're in by creating apps on iTunes. And he was able to figure out the system and make himself a lot of money. Alan, you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Hey, so you got that book, Life Hacked. What exactly do you mean by Life Hacked?
Well, let me explain what hacking is. I used to do a bit of hacking in my early college years. And hacking, I mean, it's got a lot of, like, negativity in the media. People think, like, hacking is about, like, stealing people's money or, you know, defacing websites. But hacking to a real hacker really means, you know, do things to a computer or system that causes that computer or system to do things beyond its intended purposes. So the ability to do those things are already there in the computer, and you just have to figure out how to unlock those abilities.
Yeah.
So I figured my book was kind of, you know, summarizes my life. And when I take a look back into my life, it seems very much like, you know, hacking a computer, except it's more like hacking my life. So that's why it's really about, you know, trying to use, like, tricks and, you know, different types of advices to try to make my life better. And so that's what Life Hack's about.
That sounds pretty interesting. Hey, what's going on? This is Bonafide Hustler over here, co-host, I guess. So, did talk to us a little bit about that slummy time of your life where, you know, things weren't going right, and how did you even think this is the direction I want to go? Were you a computer person back in the day, or?
Yeah, I was a computer person since, like, way early on.
How old are you now?
I'm actually in my mid-20s.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I started out. Do you guys remember something called Commodore 64?
Yeah, it was like a gaming system.
Is that the Atari thing? Wait.
Yeah, it was like a gaming. It was actually a computer, but people usually play games on it. And that was, like, my very first computer, and I was kind of introduced to that. I think I was only like 3 or 4 when I was introduced to that, and then I moved on to, you know, Windows 1.0.
And is this in China, or were you already in America?
No, I was actually born in New York.
Okay, so you're born in America.
No, yeah, I was born in America, like a few years after my parents moved here.
Okay. So to be at the kind of level that you're at, I've always wondered that with kids. Like, if I want a kid that is able to go out there and actually program and do something really productive like that, do you have to get your kids into actually programming at ages like 4 and 5?
Oh, no, I wasn't programming at that age. Sorry, I was into computers at that age. It was really when I think I was 16 when I started programming. But I was making websites when I was in junior high. But I think kids these days are making websites even at an earlier age than I was. I mean, I was only making websites at that age because the internet wasn't invented yet. So that was the earliest I could have started making websites.
Yeah.
Kids are, like, starting out in, like, elementary school now. So I don't think you have to introduce them. They're introducing themselves. Just put a computer in their face and they'll learn themselves.
Yeah. So now let me get this straight. You're a pretty wealthy guy. Is that a good assertion to make at this point in your life?
I have enough that I can just retire. I'll put it at that.
Yeah. Are you in the top? And you're not talking about retiring and just eking out a living. You're talking about retiring and just living like a baller, right?
Yeah, just retiring and living my life as it is now and just continuing on.
So why are you still working? Because there's so many people. They're like, if I win the lottery, I'm just gonna retire and I'm gonna quit my job. What gives you that motivation to still even work?
That's actually something I ask myself every day. I'm like, why am I still working? But I think if you don't work, it's like if you don't do something, it just it kind of just dies off. And I think life is kind of like that. If you don't like work or have a purpose in life, you just feel like life's not worth it, and you just don't.
That's this is Dr. Wilson here. That's actually really accurate. One of the big things with there's a huge correlation between lottery winners and lottery winners who kill themselves or die because they stop doing. For one, they stop doing what they love that feeds their happiness, and then the second part is that lots of them start feeling guilty because they have so much money which they thought would bring them happiness and it doesn't. So I congratulate you on getting up every day and going to work.
Yeah, I kind of want to explain the happiness a bit. I think this is a misconception that a lot of people have. They think that if you're rich, even if you're rich like into your entire life, you think you'd be happy your entire life, but it's not like that. I think once you get to a certain point, you get used to it, and then you no longer get that happiness from being rich.
It's called it's a phenomena called hedonic adaptation. So I'm a psychologist. I specialize in happiness and well-being. So
so there's actually a saying for it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's another thing then.
Right. Well, the funny thing about what you're saying is, I was actually wondering that because you okay, just so our audience knows what kind of lifestyle you live. What is like your everyday driver?
Lamborghini Aventador.
So that's like a $400,000 car, about, right?
Yeah, and then after taxes, it's a bit more than that.
Okay, so and then you have like a Gallardo, and I think you just bought like a Bentley Continental GT or something, right?
Those were my previous cars: the Lamborghini Gallardo LP 560 and Continental GT. Okay,
so I mean, is this something that whenever, because you came from a real bad part of your life, where it was real hard for you, and we'll get to that in a minute, but now that you've made it, is that something where you walk into your garage and you're just amazed and you're just like, holy shit, oh my God, I can't believe this? Or what goes through your mind when you see your car and what you've made of yourself?
That actually does happen. When I see that garage door opening and I see the Lamborghini, reveal itself slowly, I sometimes have to pinch myself, It's like I still feel like I'm just a college student. Like I don't even feel rich yet. I guess it didn't really sink in, but I try not to let it sink in because I don't want to like that psychologist said, I don't want to get used to being rich. I kind of want to pretend that I'm winning the lottery every day, and it's kind of a trick that I'm doing to keep myself happy. It's like oh yeah, I won the lottery today. And just keep repeating every day, and that feels so much better for me than to just walk around saying, "Oh, I'm rich." I mean, that's
yeah. And your dad had passed away right before all this happened, right? And your family was in a real bad spot.
Yeah, I mean, my dad actually passed away exactly 3 months after I graduated. It was I was actually still working. I got a job right after I graduated, and I was working in Los Angeles, which is where I went to college. And I remember getting that phone call from my aunt, telling me that my father had passed away, and that really that just turned my life around. I mean, I had to move back to New York to take care of my mom,
and this is not a time in your life where you were by any means wealthy, I assume.
No, not at all. I mean, I was just working at a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, how much were you making at that time?
I think like $50,000.
So you're making like $50,000, probably no savings or very little savings. Yeah. And you hear the horrible news, and you go back home having to leave your job and everything, right?
Yeah, because my mom's actually she has schizophrenia, so she actually, I think her schizophrenia got worse after my father passed away. So I had to move back and take care of her because no one was taking care of her at that point since my dad passed away. So yeah, I felt like my life was already going well because I didn't feel like I needed to be rich. So I was just happy with having a 9-to-5 job. I was in like Los Angeles and my life was just starting, and this happened to me, and then after moving back to New York, I was like, man, like what the hell? Like usually this happens to people who are like older, when they're like married with kids and their life's already settled. But for me, I was just starting life, and they threw me a curveball basically.
Yeah. And at this point, you had no idea how to make an app or anything. You were just taking care.
iPhone wasn't even invented yet.
Okay, so how long before the iPhone comes out now, where you're in a pretty desperate situation, and you learn how to make apps and all that? What is the time period between this?
Oh wait, no, I take it back. The iPhone was invented, but the App Store wasn't accepting new apps. I think in the beginning it was just Apple apps, and then later on they started allowing apps. But I think it was like half a year after he passed away, I started doing apps.
And how do you learn how to make apps? If somebody out there, because there's a lot of app developers probably, or people want to make apps. How did you learn?
Well, I actually took computer science in college, so I kind of knew programming. But making apps was a completely new language called Objective-C, and I learned Java and C++ in school. So I had to learn a new language, but the good thing about programming is that if you know one language, it's very easy to pick up a new language because a lot of it's very similar. So you just have to know like the little quirks and what's the differences, and then. So
did you take classes or anything, or just watch some videos on the internet?
Oh, I just try to learn it on my own. I just go online and see what other people were doing, and then I just try to copy them and learn from it and try to do something better than them.
Right. So how long before you make your first app?
It was actually maybe a month into learning it. I made my first app. It wasn't a very good app, but yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone starts off with a really good app at first. I think everyone just kind of like eases their way into the app store. They start out with like simple apps. I think my first app was like a web browser kind of thing. It was basically you could like tilt the iPhone and then you could scroll through websites just by tilting it.
Yeah.
So how much did that app make you?
That was like $50 a day. So it wasn't enough for like a full-time job.
Wait, say that again?
$50 a day.
Oh, $50 a day. Okay.
And then how many more apps before your big apps start hitting?
I don't know. I turned out a lot of like really like cheesy apps. I'd say maybe six apps. 6 apps, which is probably not that many though. If you consider it, you put like you give 6 shots something, and now suddenly you basically almost like hitting the lottery. So now your 7th app comes out. Which one is that? The first big app that hits? Well, it depends. I mean, there was one app before the big app that got big. Was this app called Newsfeed, and it's basically like. I used the web browser app that I had and then added more to it. I basically made like a news browsing app where it would go through all the news sites and then put it all together into one app instead of, you go into each, news app, so that because all these like companies like CNN and Fox News and MSNBC, they all have their app. They all have their own app. But that's like installing like 5 different apps into your phone when you could just have one app, which is my app, and then just browse through all the different sources at the same time. That one actually made it to the #1 news app back then. And I think it was like half a year afterwards, then Firewall Radio came out, which is the police scanner app that I made, and that was the one that made millions.
You said that was 5 years after?
No, half a year.
Half a year. So like 6 months later, you put out this app called 50 Radio. And basically, it just takes a bunch of police scanner feeds, and you're able to pinpoint your location and listen to police scanners while you're driving on your iPhone.
Yeah, and you can listen to police scanners from, another state or even another country. I have some from Australia and Canada.
So how long before? So you make this app and you put it out on the App Store. Is it like an immediate hit or it slowly builds up?
It was a slow crawl up. I mean, police scanners weren't really that popular back then. So it wasn't really like a big hit. It was kind of slowly crawling up. It was after, I think 4 months afterwards, I released a free version, and I started like telling all these people about it. And it's free, so people just download it just to check it out of curiosity. I think a lot of people didn't download it because they didn't believe that it was real. I remember in my early days, I got a lot of emails saying like, "Hey, this isn't real. This is a pre-recording," but it was real. It was all live, and they just couldn't believe their ears. And then this word just spread after that. After I released that free version, people were like, "Hey, you should download this free app."
And were you able to make money off that free version?
Oh yeah, tons of money.
So how do you make money on something free?
Yeah, I get asked this a lot. It's free, but there's ads in it. So these other app developers or maybe just companies, they want to advertise on your app. So it's kind of like a billboard on your app, and they pay you for having your ad in your app.
Right.
It's pretty interesting, man.
So now the app is hit, and what like the first when was the first time like you wake up in the morning and you check your App Store like account where the dollars come in and you realize, holy shit, this thing is just taking off? Like what was the dollar amount where you were just like you just click like, oh my god, this is about to change my life?
Yeah, I think it was like the very first day that it got big. I think I got like 80,000 downloads, and I mean Apple takes a cut of that, but that was still like five figures in one day. So that was insane. I mean, I was making 5 figures a year, so 5 figures in one day. I was like,
so you got something like $50,000 overnight. You wake up and it's like boom, sitting in your account.
Yeah.
And is it something you just start dancing and screaming and running around your house?
I was actually still working when I found out. I mean, I was at my workplace, and then I have coworkers, so I couldn't like scream and dance. I mean, it's a professional workplace. I was working at Columbia University. It's it's a pretty prestigious school. I couldn't just act all crazy.
Yes. So is this something you share with somebody? Like, hey, dude, check this shit out. Like,
yeah, I told my coworker, and she's like, "Why are you still working here?"
And then does it like spread like wildfire around the office? And now all the chicks are coming up to you like, "Hey, Alan, what's up, man? You want to go on a date?"
No, I was afraid that people would treat me differently, so I try to keep on the down low. It was only my coworker, like the one that sits right next to me, that I told. And I was like, please don't tell anyone.
Please don't tell anyone. I'm gonna buy a fucking awesome car in about a week.
I have a funny story associated with that. So the first time someone found out, besides my coworker, was when I already had like I had a lime green Lamborghini Gallardo then, and I was still going to work then, but I was going to work with my my mom's car. She has like a Toyota Corolla. But then one day, like I had to get my car out of the shop because it was in there for service, and it didn't make sense for me to go to the shop in the morning and then go back home just to pick up the Corolla. It made more sense just to drive to work directly. So I did that, and one of my coworkers, he looked at me and he's like confused, like what's this car doing here? And then he looked at me and he's like, wait a second, you're Alan, you're my coworker. And then we just said hi to each other, and then I just walked away as if like it's no big deal. Yeah.
Were you freaking out, or you were like, hell yeah, this is the moment I've been waiting for my whole life?
No, I'm not that kind of like show offy type of guy. But what's funny was that afterwards, the guy who saw me, he works in a different department. He works like in the science department, and I work in the computer science department. And he goes up to my boss, and then he goes like, "Can I please work for you? I want to learn you for myself."
Oh God,
that's awesome.
So the first day it hits. I want to try to get a timeline out of this. So it first day it hits, and it's like about 50,000 or so in your account. Now, is this something that continues? Like every day you wake up, it's like 50,000, 60,000. I mean, is it just a build up nonstop?
No. It's you. Once you get that very first viral thing, it lasts for maybe like 2 days that you're making like 5 figures, and then eventually it goes down like a downward slope. But it's a very slow, gradual drop. It's not like the next day you're making like $10. It's like it just, you're making like maybe 1% less.
So it's going like, sure, like for a year, it's like 50,000, 49,000, 45,000, 30. Like every day it's in the tens of $1,000s for a while, right?
Yeah, it was quite a while that's been going on.
That just sounds insane to me, man. And let me get this straight. You were living in like almost complete poverty at that point.
Well, at that point, it was kind of yeah. I mean, I was the only one who actually had a job, so technically, I was it. I was like the breadwinner in the family.
Yeah, and what was like your biggest day on some of your apps? Like, if you don't mind saying, like, or if you can give us like about an estimate, like, what is one day where just like the biggest one day, like, boom in your account that you see coming in?
I can't say that.
Okay, yeah, I figured you wouldn't want to say, but I bet you it's a lot of money. I know. You in your book you said
higher or lower, man.
In your book you said something like $100,000 a day it comes in sometimes, and sometimes it's so much money where it almost feels inconsequential to you because it's so much money,
Well, okay, let me add to that. The thing is, like, at that point when I was actually making that much, it was like within the first year, so I wasn't sure if it was going to last for the rest of my life. And I'm still not sure even now, like how much money I'm going to make next year. So I didn't really treat it as if it was like throwaway money. Instead, I was treating it as if like I worked a whole year for it. I was treating it as if it was actually like something I worked for a whole year for, and that I shouldn't treat it like a lottery winning. Because if I were to make like $0 the next day, then all this money that I just made, I have to spread it out, for the rest of my life. And, I can't just, I just can't buy a Lambo next day.
Yeah. About how long before you actually buy your Lambo, though?
After I made seven figures, I was like, okay, it's about time.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And you buy a new one or a used one?
New one. All my cars have been new.
Okay. And are they some guys that do what you're talking about, where they have an app hit and now they buy a bunch of Lambos and stuff, and then suddenly it dies off and they're stuck with all these bills?
Not for apps, but I have heard of stories about other things. Like I remember some guy had a program for World of Warcraft that he was selling. And World of Warcraft is not that popular anymore, so his program doesn't really make that much money anymore. But he went crazy. I mean, I think he was only like a teenager back then when money started rolling in. He started, going to these parties and like spending like 5 figures on wine and alcohol, and he bought like Lamborghinis and stuff. But yeah, I mean, he almost went bankrupt because he spent all that money. He thought it was going to last forever. And I learning from his story, I didn't do any of that stuff. I mean, I only spend like 10% of my income.
So do you eat sushi every night?
I'm sorry?
So do you eat good sushi every night, or have you now you got a personal trainer? Like how is life now?
No, I try to keep my life like normal. I mean, besides the Lamborghini and living in a bigger house, I mean, I try to keep my life normal. I mean, if you try to like change, then you get used to it. And I don't want to get used to it yet. I want to feel like my life can get better later on. I don't want to feel like this is the prime.
So if I was to tell you mo money, mo problems, which is what Biggie said, would you agree to that or no?
I guess in terms of friends asking you for money, I guess so. Yes. And also if you buy a lot of if you buy like a Lamborghini, you got a lot of like maintenance things you got to worry about. You got to worry about where you park. That can be a problem. That could be a headache.
And like when you say friends asking you for money, do you suddenly all your friends just changed completely because now these guys, you have to hang around people with more money, and because the guys that you're friends with suddenly start being jealous, or I mean, what happens with your current friends, and what kind of new friends do you start making?
I think after college and after my father passed away, I just made my life really busy with work. So I try to like eliminate as many friends as possible and only keep the good ones. And I still keep those good friends. Like, I'm talking about friends that like I would trust my life with, you know, that I would trust like my entire savings account with. You know, these are like friends that I grew up with since elementary school. You know, they're like my neighbors, and these are the friends that I keep with me. And obviously I have more friends now, but the old friends that I used to have, the ones before I made it, I mean, some of them do come back and try to talk to me, you know, try to befriend me and be like, hey, like I'm starting this like business. Can I borrow like 50 grand to start? I get that like maybe once a month.
Wow. Yeah, see, I get that, and I don't have any money, so I can just imagine what's going on with you. What is like the worst, like most, just like, really? Did this guy just ask me that? What is the biggest, just, I can't believe this guy asked me this.
Oh, man. It's actually my uncle. It was kind of, the thing is like, right when my father passed away, it was during the recession. Well, after, kind of like the recession already kind of started. And my uncle, he was like a day trader. And so he lost a ton of money during the recession because, you know, all the stocks plummeted. And he actually was kind of contemplating suicide. And he has a family. I mean, he has two kids and he has a wife. And he was like, you know, I'm almost broke now and I have no money, you know. And so I actually lent him. I didn't lend him. I actually just gave him. I gave him like $26,000, which is I think the maximum gift amount you could give before it gets taxed. And I was like, here's some money. Just like, you know, find a job and don't do day trading again, because obviously it's ruined your life. You know, just get a normal job. And I mean, he went to college, so he could have gotten a normal job. So a year passes, and he comes back to me and he says, I need more money. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, I started day trading again and I lost all the money that he gave me. And he's like, can I borrow some money? I'm like, how much do you need? I mean, I was willing to give him like 50 grand, but he asked me for like 100 grand. And I'm like, he's like, that's the only way I can make money in day trading. You can't make money with 50 grand.
So he wants to continue gambling away your money.
Exactly. So I was like, this is starting to turn into like a gambling addiction. I mean, I'm feeding it too. I mean, I want to do that. I'm like an enabler, you know. So I had to cut him off. And here's the screwed up part. He actually cut off all ties with me and my family too. Like my entire side of the family just cut us off, you know. Like us on Facebook kind of cut off.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much because I have friends that I'll borrow money. I'll let them borrow money, and now they're cutting me off and taking me off their Facebook, so I don't get to see them once they come back into money. They don't want to pay it back ever. That's been my experience.
That's actually my reasoning too. I was like, if you make money, like let's say I did loan him that money. He said he was going to pay me back. I didn't really believe it. Let's say I really did loan him that money. Whatever earnings he makes, he's going to keep for himself.
Yeah.
If he loses money, he'll just be like, oh, I don't have money. I can't pay it back.
Yeah, that's been my experience every time. So if I were you, keep your money to yourself and just donate it to charity. That's what I would recommend because it seems that rich people have the same issues that when they loan money that poor people have when they loan money. You know. But
hey,
I mean,
hey, Alan, this is Bonafide Hustler. Would you have given him $100 grand if he said, "I'm with the Yakuza"?
What do you mean? Like he's getting his life?
What if, like, when he was asking you for money, and then you said, "No, I'm not giving you $100 grand." He slowly unbuttons his shirt, and there's all these tats, and you're like, "Wait a minute, now I know."
I mean, it's not really about the amount of money. I would have given him any amount. It's just I didn't want him to.
Right. I'm just making a stupid, absolutely dumb joke.
Yeah, he should have just come with $100,000 at you right away. He probably could have gotten away with it. You know, it was that second time that kind of screwed him over.
You know what you need to do is just go by his house with your Lamborghini and just fucking peel out and do donuts.
Yeah,
anyway.
Just keep showing off to him at this point, because since he's out.
No,
of
you should
your
put
life.
one door up and do donuts right on his street.
What about like women now in your life? Is it just a totally different experience? Are we talking about like just women coming on to you wherever you go? It's got, with the Lamborghini, you must have chicks just coming up to you left and right.
Yeah, I can't lie. Yes, there's these like random chicks on the street, and then they like holler at you. They catcall me. I mean, it's weird. It's like usually guys catcall girls when they're in their car, but it's like the opposite. And but these are like girls that I wouldn't want to date. I mean, I hate it's like these like ghetto girls, or
Yeah.
Like you can tell they're not the type of girl you bring home to your mom.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you're a guy, you see a hot chick, and if you're a low class guy, you'll actually just let out some animal scream like, "Hey, what's up, girl?" So women do that with guys, except with fancy cars.
I think it's the equivalent of that. I'm sure it doesn't happen to like really hot guys too. I'm not a hot guy. So.
Yeah. Has it ever worked out for you though? You've met this girl because of the car, or because they know you're wealthy, and you're able to turn it into something actually long term that's worthwhile, or is it always just now you're real careful about women?
I don't know if the car if it's the car or if it's me. So, but I mean, I haven't been doing bad with women before the car, so I don't know. The car, I did start getting more like girls talking to me with the car, but
is it something you have to be now very conscious of because of the amount of money you have, to where a woman can come in and basically take advantage of you, or end up trying to marry you and taking half of your money?
It's a prenup signed. It's really easy. No, seriously. I mean, that would be
but
the
some
smartest thing to do.
states it doesn't matter.
Well, then you move to a fucking state where it does matter.
Yeah.
Even with the prenup, you always have these girls that are like, "Hey, bring me to this fancy dinner place, and spend $10,000 on me." It's like prenup's not gonna.
Yeah,
$10,000.
Yeah. Once you have a kid, a prenup doesn't matter.
I'll tell you what, man. If you ever hear a girl just say, "I suck your dick," don't just fucking leave. Just leave. That's probably not a high class girl, dude.
Yeah. Have you ever had people get just visibly jealous in front of you or anything? Because I know when I found out about you through the internet. And I noticed a lot of people leaving just hateful comments when you were just trying to let them know kind of how you made it. I mean, does that happen in person ever?
Not as much as the internet, but it has happened at least once. I mean, I remember a bunch of guys were on this like black SUV, and then they just rolled up like these ghetto-looking kids. They just roll up with their rap music blasting, and then they start talking to me. And then I tried just being friendly, but then they started being all hateful, and they started throwing rocks and pennies at my car, and I was like, "What the hell?"
Oh man! And it hit your car?
Yeah, like
the Aventador?
Yeah, no, it was the Lamborghini Gallardo back then.
Okay, they probably would have shot you if they saw the Aventador, man. That thing's way nicer.
Probably, but I actually have a funny story about haters. Me and my friends who had Lamborghinis. We did like a rally to upstate New York, and on our way there, we kind of passed by this kind of poor neighborhood. The streets were all broken down. Like you knew that the neighborhood was poor.
Yeah.
Like the movie theater looked like it was from the 50s. So when we drove by, like all these kids started coming out of their houses, like we were like the ice cream trucks or something like that, and they started screaming and chasing us. And then this one kid. Which everyone in that group, because we had like a group of like 40 Lambos. And everyone remembers this one kid who shouted out, "Why are you driving a Lambo? We're in a recession."
Oh, shit.
That's funny.
Yeah, we were like, we're going to get killed here. We better leave this town.
Yeah.
That kid's going to be a millionaire one day.
So Now, I know that you're big into helping out with society and everything, that you've reached your goal. That's kind of why you come out and talk about how you made it, and you want to kind of motivate others. That's what your book's about, Life Hacked. And we'll have a link on our website, and if anybody wants to go get it, or go to Amazon, or better yet, click on it on our website. We get a small cut out of it. It's called Life Hacked: How One Family from the Slums Made Millions Selling Apps. And I know you say in your book at one point things were so bad you almost contemplated killing yourself. Like, what made you stop and continue on?
Yeah, that point was like when my mom was like full blown in the psychotic episode, and it was just too much to bear. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever dealt with someone who's schizophrenic, but
every day.
Yeah, but here's the thing: it's your own mother. This is someone you grew up with, and it's almost as if your mother is not there anymore. She's like a vegetable who's walking around her house, and spouting nonsense. And it gets worse when she accuses you of trying to hurt her when you're completely doing the opposite. When you're taking care of her, and she's like saying like, "Oh, like you're only here to take my money." And I'm like, "What money? What are you talking about?" But yeah, I mean, at that point, it was like this life is really hard because I got this person who's like just always like being so negative towards me, and I'm forced to live with this person, and but I've come to accept it as a part of my life, and I accept it because it's kind of like she took care of me when I was young, so it's kind of like I'm returning the favor. Except usually people do that when their parents are like in their senior citizen age. I'm just doing it earlier, I guess.
Hey, Alan, this is Dr. Wilson. How old were you when your mom's symptoms started to kick in?
From what I heard from hearing stories from my dad, it kicked in when she was married to him, so around 26.
Okay.
He actually didn't know that, so he was freaked out when he found out, because he found out when she was in the episode, and he was like, "What the hell is going on here?" Because I think he didn't know what schizophrenia was, because he didn't have an education, so he was freaked out.
So basically, your whole life, you've been dealing with your mom's schizophrenia.
Well, here's the thing, though. Her episodes usually only last for like a week, and then it goes away, and then doesn't come back for another year. But after my dad passed away, she had the episode for like 9 months straight, like with no signs of her normalness. And when she finally became normal again, it was like watching a dead person come back to life.
Is she medicating? Like, is she taking her meds or no?
She has no medications. I bought her Zyprexa, which is what her doctor gave her, but she keeps throwing them away. Because there's a stigma among like Asians, like if you're crazy, then
yes,
it's bad. So she doesn't want to label herself as crazy, even though she kind of knows that she has these symptoms. But she keeps like convincing herself that like everyone has these symptoms. Like it's like. She's saying like, "Oh, like, I just didn't get enough sleep." She always loves saying that. I didn't get enough sleep. That's why I'm acting this way.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things with schizophrenia is, the therapy is a large part of therapy is getting them to stick to their meds.
And through all this, you were able to concentrate enough and learn how to make these iPhone apps.
Yeah, I remember that first year of having a 9-to-5 job and then just coming back from work and having to work on the apps and take care of my mother at the same time. And just being at work while my mother's at home alone, that was hard. I mean, I couldn't wait to get back home just to see, if she's okay, because, I don't know if she's going to like kill herself when I'm at work. And I would feel bad if she did that because I wasn't there to stop her. So that was hard. That was a really tough time in my life. That's actually kind of why I kind of want the apps to take off so I could quit my job and just stay home and take care of her.
So do you think if you weren't going through all this with your dad passing away, your mom going through these episodes and having no money, that you might not have had the motivation and the drive to make? Do you think that kind of pushed you towards being this successful and making those apps and learning all these skills?
I would have done it anyways because I love learning. I mean, I had a pretty successful business when I was in college as well. I was selling video game hacks, and that was actually quite profitable. It's not as profitable as now, but I kind of knew that I had the kind of business talent. But yeah, I think I wouldn't have pushed myself as hard. I mean, I would have still made apps, but I wouldn't have like constantly kept churning out apps until I got something good. I would have just done maybe like 1 or 2 apps a year or so. But I was like churning out a new app every month at that point.
Yeah. And even before all this, life was pretty hard for you. I was reading that you were bullied a lot when you were a kid.
Yeah.
What would people pick on you for?
Well, first, I'm not that tall. I'm like kind of below average. And also I was dressed really nerdily, if that's even a word, because my mom doesn't really have that much fashion sense. Because, you know, she grew up in the slums, so I was wearing like, you know, people wear like normal clothes, and then there's people who wear like Mickey Mouse clothes, but I was even below that. I was wearing like Mickey Mouse clothes that were bootleg Mickey Mouse, like wrong colors, you know, like Mickey Mouse wearing like green pants or something like that. So it was like I looked poor, like, you know, and people were picking on me for being, you know, an immigrant, even though I wasn't. I think it's because I kind of had an accent back then. And it's because we only spoke Chinese at home, and I was kind of shy, so I didn't really speak to people much when I was younger. So I didn't really pick up, you know, the American accent until later on.
You were even stabbed at one point, right?
Yeah, there was this one kid, you know, there's always that one crazy kid, you know, in every class. I don't know if you guys had that, but there's...
Yeah, that was me.
Well, yeah, there's always this one crazy kid who's kind of like the bully, like the class bully, and he's always like picking on kids. And the thing is, like, the way I dealt with that was that I became friends with him. Like, I tried to, you know, get to know him so that he would stop bullying me, and it kind of worked. I mean, he actually fended off other bullies, you know. But
have you added him on Facebook and let him know you have a Lambo at this point?
Yeah, so let me get to the story about how he stabbed me. Since we were friends, we used to sit next to each other, and he used to like screw around with me a lot. You know, like putting gum between my textbooks and, you know, just normal stuff. But then one day he decided to just act really crazy and started making these like stabbing motions at me with his. He had a mechanical pencil, you know, the ones that had the click and then the lead comes out. You know, those things are really sharp. So he started making these stabbing motions at me, and I didn't take him seriously at first, but then started getting really close. So I kind of raised up my arm to, you know, defend myself, and he stabbed me right in the wrist, and I started bleeding pretty heavily.
Wow. So let me ask you now a little bit. Let me transition a little bit here, because there's probably a lot of app developers out there. What do you have any quick advice to give people on how to make their apps popular, or how to get into the app business? Because now there's just everyone's pumping out apps, right? So there's probably a lot of noise out there.
Yeah, if you want to stand out, I would say there's quite a few things you can do. First, you should tell people about your app. Don't just put it out there and then, you know, assume that everyone's gonna know about it. No one's gonna know about it. You have to tell people about it. You know, just not just your friends. Even you have to go on like forums, and the best way is look for forums that where people would want to download your app. So, like, let's say your app's about cars. You know, don't go to a forum about bears if your app's about cars. Go to a car forum, you know, and then talk about your app. But don't talk about it in a way that it sounds like a sales pitch. You know, people sense that and then they immediately, you know, ignore it. Talk about it like it's an app that you use and that it's not your own. You know, just don't let people know that you made that app. Just be like, hey guys, check out this app that, you know, I think it's pretty good. That's actually how I got started when I made Fiber Radio. I mean, I started going on these different like police forums, and you know, there's some forums that like people follow cops. like, follow crime waves.
Yeah.
Alan, this is Dr. Wilson.
Yes.
So I have no background in computers. I actually have a hard time dealing with them, but I specialize, as I said, in happiness and well-being. And in my mind, I've got these ideas for some apps to help promote everyday happiness and some techniques for people to increase their well-being throughout the day, as well as to reduce stress. What advice would you have for someone like me who has these ideas but has no connection with app developers or anything? Like, where do I get started with that?
There's a lot of freelance app developers out there. I think there's a website called elance.com. I mean, there's also a lot of different other websites like dice.com, I think, is another one. And you can try there, but I don't know. That's kind of like me telling you to go on Craigslist and, try to find someone there, because you never know who you're going to get.
Yeah,
Right.
They might just steal your idea and run off.
That's what I'm worried about, because I don't have the background. So I'm just wondering what's a good way for someone who has the ideas and the knowledge, but not the technology.
Well, it's kind of gonna be like Craigslist or eBay. You're gonna have to try to get people to vouch for them and try to see what apps that they made, and it's kind of like hiring someone for a job. I mean, just interview the guy.
Are there any red flags I should be mindful of?
Yeah, you should probably get a price up front and make sure that he doesn't change it, because I've heard stories about people like saying like, "Oh, I'll do it for like 5,000," and then halfway through the project he goes, "Oh, this is gonna take more time. I'm gonna need another $2,000," and then like a few months pass and it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna need more money. It's taking more time," and then the guy who thought that he was spending 5K is actually ended up spending like 10 or 15,000.
Yeah, and then he might just be like kind of holding your app hostage, and then if you don't pay him, he has like this unfinished piece of code that you don't know what to do with, basically.
So, I mean, they usually want money up front, so you already gave them like $5,000 or whatever you gave them. So you don't want to feel like you lost all that, because if you're like, "No, I don't want to continue giving you more money," he's like, "Well, fine, then we'll just call it off," and then he takes your money and that's it.
Yeah. So what does the future hold for you, Alan? What are you working on, and what do you plan to do with your life here now that you, is it just app developing from now on, or do you have anything else you got planned you can tell us about?
No, app developing has kind of taken a back seat for me. I mean, it makes me the most money, but I mean, I'm at the point where I kind of just want to do whatever I want. So I've been doing a lot of different jobs just for the heck of it. Like, I started doing some acting, and I didn't like that, so I did stop doing that. Yeah, acting is a lot of standing around and doing nothing.
Did you actually get any roles?
No. That's the thing. I kind of eased myself in there. I got like a really small part on a MTV TV show called The In-Betweeners, and I literally spent 12 or 14 hours just waiting for my part, and then I say like 2 lines, and then that's it. And I spent like 14 hours just to spend like 5 minutes.
And they give you like $100, basically.
Not even. I think they pay you minimum wage if you're just like a nobody.
Jeez.
That's how they get you, because they know that they know that you want to make it into business, so they could charge you whatever, because they know you're still going to want the job.
You should just start producing movies, because I'm serious. I have a buddy.
You can't just start producing
No, my
movies,
buddy
dude.
My buddy Jorge, and we had him on the show from Immersive Entertainment. He was building homes. He quit everything and just filmed a reality show of just his life, because he married some chick from Russia and they argue all the time. So he filmed that and started shopping it around to different, and now he has like 2 different studios. I can't say who they are, but they're in a bidding war. So imagine if Allen Wong, you know what you should do? And I can hook you up with my buddy Jorge. He'll teach you how to do it, or maybe he'll produce the show for you and sell it. Just do the story of Alan, the guy in his Lamborghini Aventador that has so much money now, he's trying to figure out what to do with his life. And basically you just go around like going to acting, going this, doing that. And I bet you it'll be a hit show. If you want, I'll let you know my buddy Jorge's contact info after this. And I guarantee that'll be a hit show.
I could ask him about that.
Yeah, and then that way you're in acting and you're producing and you're doing everything, man. But hey, thanks for coming on the show. I just want to end this with a quote from your dad that I read in your book that really stuck with me. It says, "Pride, disappointment, and fear all go away when you don't expect to live another day. What's left is what's important. Our time on this earth is short. Make it count, son.
Yeah, that always sends me chills when I reread that quote.
Yeah. Well, Allen, hey, thanks for taking the time, coming with us, sharing about it. You let people know a lot of stuff that people really don't want to answer about finances, money, how they made it, all that. I appreciate everything. Thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye.
All right, that was Allen Wong. You can get his book, Life Hacked, How One Family from the Slums Made Millions Selling Apps. If you want to just click on it real easy and buy it, just go to theguyspot.com. Don't forget also, The Guy Spot is having a contest where you can win a Google Nexus tablet, 16 gigabyte, the Nexus tablet. All you got to do is go to iTunes and click on review and review our show. And all the 5-star reviews will be thrown in a hat. The first 100 ones are the ones that will count. Those will be thrown in a hat. We'll pick a name and you win a Google Nexus tablet. So you got like 2 minutes of your time. Go vote. We haven't hit 100 yet. So basically when it's done, you have a 1 out of 100 chance of winning a tablet.